Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Degrassiism. No, it's not an unpopular opinion, it's a Degrassiism. And for the past month, I've been kind of bugging you for this idea, the top Degrassi episodes of all time, because I did the top 10 worst Degrassi episodes of all time and did polling for that. I decided to do a top 10, but I'm like, Degrassi deserves more than 10, it deserves 20. So I picked up what episodes per season I liked, one episode per season, which I thought would work out, and put them in polls from 1 to 6, 7 to 12, and 13 to 18, right, by the seasons. Of course, seasons 15, 16, 17, 18 are Degrassi Next Class seasons 1, 2, 3, 4. I just number it differently. But after not getting a lot of people like submitting ideas for the top 20, well, that I got 2 episodes for the top 20, I decided to do the polls. And with 2 episodes actually not making sense, I put the 2 episodes that the guy suggested I do, and then and I had 18. So I decided I don't want to do 20. I'll just make it from 18 to 15. And basically, what I'll do is, this is kind of a revamp. I know I did one early in my Degrassiism playlist, but that was a long time ago, and that was based off of the Reddit community doing some kind of poll stuff. So basically, I did it based on that, and I had some of my own. But I decided to just make it a top 15. Why not? So there were 4 episodes that were aiming. I did a poll to determine number 15 on the list because, well, of the 18 episodes, it was so. So what happened was the top 2 in each of the 3 polls from 1 to 6, 7 to 12, 13, and 18 were in the final 6. And then what I did was there were 4 episodes of the show. There were 4 episodes that actually got double digit voting that were not top. They were not in the top 2. So I decided to put those 4 in to make 7 to 10 to make it more comfortable. And then there were 4 episodes that were not that they were decent, but they were not top, did not get the double digit voting. So I decided to put them as 11 to 14. And then there were 4 episodes that I made try to go for number 15. So the voting for number 15 wasn't close. Holly Road, K Thanks Bye, and Boom Boom Pow all combined to score less votes. They had 47 votes combined, but the winner with 56 votes was Take On Me Season 3. So number 15 on the list, 555, is Take On Me Season 3, the Breakfast Club homage episode. Radich is the stern authority figure who has 5 people serving Saturday detentions because of their crimes. Sean got in trouble for insulting Radich, but I think it was just basically a front for the fact that Sean stole stuff from the school. He couldn't prove it. So it was the way to punish Sean. At least the cops didn't get involved. Ellie got in trouble for cutting classes too often. Jimmy and Toby were put in detention because Jimmy told Toby to change his grades so that he can go to a concert. Toby got caught doing it on the school computer, and he ratted out Jimmy. And also, Hazel got in trouble for looking at inappropriate sites Monday. So anyway, Radich seems to be a dick and all that. The five students talk about things and steal the keys and go up on the roof. And at the same time, Radich and Simpson are talking because Simpson's coming back from his chemo for leukemia. And Simpson said, they're good kids. They're being punished enough. What are you going to do? They're just human, Dan, telling to Radich. Radich agrees to let them go. And then everyone finds out about Ellie having a tape recorder. She said she recorded it for a story. I think people figured that Ellie was spying on them via Radich. But fortunately for Radich, he didn't get implicated because it was Ellie's fault. But it did bring 2 new relationships, the Sean Ellie relationship and the Hazel Jimmy relationship. Toby obviously was left out. So that's what ended up being number 15 on the list. And now I'll tell you the results of the ranking poll from 11 to 14. And funny thing was that the 2 episodes I didn't come up with for the season 3, well, the Take On Me was the season 3 episode I came up with. And there were 2 season 3 episodes that were basically better than them. So based on how bad Take On Me did it, the 2 season 3 episodes that were suggested to me actually made the list, and I figured they were good enough to be 11 to 14, but I couldn't put them in the top 10 because it wouldn't be fair to the other people and all that. So anyway, yeah. Yeah, so Phoenix and Sorry Not Sorry were in the list. And of course, I couldn't do 20, so now I've made it top 15. All right, so number 14, 554, is Causing Commotion Season 8. I said this was the famous episode from Season 8. I should have said Jane Says. Probably would have gotten more votes. But I think Causing Commotion was big. Well, I'm a little biased, but you'll see why. So anyway, Shep is upset, tripping over Connor's lamp in the meeting room. So he basically throws Connor into detention and asks him to remove the lamp. But the gifted class, in solidarity with Connor, actually does lamps at their own desk, and Shep gives them all detention. Unfortunately, Connor causes trouble with Allie in the detention room, fights her. Connor is weird and all that. He gets expelled. However, Claire comes to Snake's house because Snake is having Connor over. Well, Snake is housing Connor. And Connor tells about his diagnosis for Asperger's syndrome, which is an autism thing, which, he's very smart, but social cues just basically just confuse him and all that. And of course, the bias is me because, as someone who is diagnosed with autism, although Connor, I think, was 15 when he got diagnosed, and I was 20 when I got diagnosed. So that's the thing. So anyway, soon the principal Shep is getting the principal of the year, and I'm like, how is Shep getting principal of the year? A, it's early in the year, like it's a little too early. And B, what did Shep do? Put a football team in? Nah. I figured that they wanted to give it to Hatzalakos. But because she moved to Regina to deal with her ailing mother, they didn't want to revote, so they gave it to Shep. So Shep wants a video for stuff. Claire talks to him and confronts him about Connor, but Shep calls Claire a little bitch. Now, some people say Claire deserved to be called a little bitch, but this is when Claire was more bearable, if you will. So unfortunately for Shep, it gets played on the video thing, and the school rebels against Shep because, Shep was defending the football team's bullying of Jane and all that. Wish better did something about it. Everyone walks out on Shep. Shep gets thrown into sensitivity training for 2 weeks. Simpson takes over, reinstates Connor, and everything seems to be hunky-dory. Now, a lot of people will be probably thinking, how did Shep get eliminated? Well, the actor Kevin Jubenville didn't want to come back, I feel, and it was not known how the Shep got canned. Although, it must be said that possibly his actions in Degrassi Goes Hollywood when he allows Jay to take the Studs, Peter's band, across to California as minors, that was probably the last straw. All right, so number 13, 553, is Throwback Thursday from season 16 / Next Class season 2. This was when alumni came back, but there were issues. So I kind of like this episode. Tristan announces there's an alumni event. Liberty and Holly J appear in the first scene talking about stuff and all that. It's kind of cool. You see Mo, you see Manny, mentioned off screen. Emma comes in the picture, Sav, Spinner, Paige, Marco, a lot of things. Of course, the problem with the alumni thing is it's in the middle of the students being incensed because A, Frankie isn't being punished for her racist poster, of course, in quotations. And B, Tiny got suspended for beating up somebody who was attacking Shay and Lola. So Tiny got in trouble and all that. And Simpson refuses to talk about it. So everyone decides to protest, and Emma even protests too. Now, of course, Maya was actually supposed to sing the school song, but she got laryngitis, so Frankie was played in place. But then they projected image on Frankie, white trash and privileged and all that. They just wanted Frankie to pay for the racist poster and all that. Of course, my opinion is that Frankie should never have done that. But the fact is, the volleyball team laughed at it, and they didn't even warn Frankie about the situation. So basically, they threw her under the bus, I guess, to save their own skins. But, Frankie was just okay and all that. But of course, Throwback Thursday talked about stuff about Marco telling him that the school board is sensitive, kind of hates minorities more than whites and all that. And, that's why they protest. Of course, it gets qualm. Tristan tries to qualm it after realizing via Mo that if anything, Tristan doesn't like and all that. Tristan's just picky. So they decide to have a conversation about this whole Black Lives Matter thing. Simpson finally agrees to do the situation. And I think that's what they wanted. They just wanted Simpson to talk about it. Have a conversation. A conversation is better suited for most things. Like a conversation isn't like the end all, be all, end all, but it's just to work. Regardless of what happens, that's what happened. And of course, to me, it's still me thinking that Simpson may have pressured Tristan to try to get rid of these controversies because of his thing and all that. And Simpson kind of did wrong. Anyway, number 12, 552, is Pride. Marco coming out of the closet. Now, I know you could probably say it's a top 10, and so is number 11. But the problem is that because I didn't put it in, and it wouldn't be fair to the top 2 from each of the things. It just didn't happen. But anyway, Pride at number 11. Season 3 was jam-packed with good episodes. I think season 3 was the best story-based season. Season 4 only had like a few storylines that were not Rick Murray. But anywho. So Marco comes out of the closet because, he sticks to Ellie and becomes and Ellie refuses to be his beard, I guess you want to call it. So she basically asks him to come out of the closet. Spinner arranges a date with Marco and Hazel, and is upset when Marco blows off Hazel for his mom's pasta sauce. It doesn't make sense. It does, because I'm gay, man. Marco said. Spinner is upset. He writes homophobic stuff in the bathroom. He's just not happy with Marco and all that. Fortunately, Marco's got other people to help him, including Jimmy, after Marco gets jumped by some guys trying to go to Dylan's hockey game. Marco falls in love with Dylan. Spinner gets ostracized and just basically bashed for his views and all that. So it was great that Marco coming out of the closet. It was huge because Adriano Ruggiero, the guy who played Marco, actually used that character to come out of the closet himself. So, which was funny. But the simple fact is that, Spinner did do some wrong. Now, I know Spinner had some preconceived notions, but remember, Spinner did turn around and help Marco try to deal with Dylan. And also the fact is that part of Spinner's hatred might have been because Marco came out to him specifically. So Spinner, in his mind, thought that Marco was coming out to Spinner exclusively because Marco wanted to be with Spinner. And Spinner had the problems, especially when Spinner was once choking on something. Marco was coming to administer CPR in the Heimlich. Spinner said, no, get away. I don't want your hugs. And all that. All right, so number 11 on the list was Accidents Will Happen Season 3. And that won the mini poll from 11 to 14. Accidents Will Happen definitely was it. I feel bad for the Americans who are watching this video. Like, I know the Reddit community is full of Americans compared to Canadians for Degrassi, but simple fact is the U.S. didn't see it for a couple of years. The only reason why the U.S. got to see that episode so quickly after being banned was because Manny's actress, Cassie Steele, made it a Degrassi's pick. And yes, Nickelodeon, or the N, as they call it, decided to do a show, like a series of staff picks, of group picks. So basically, they had to show the episode and all that. There were bootleg copies of it. But yeah, Accidents Will Happen was huge. Manny learns she could be pregnant and all that. And confiding in Spike, she is pregnant and all that. Of course, Manny was in the love triangle with Ashley and Craig. And of course, Manny tells Spike that she's not sure her parents will approve of it because she had a cousin that was sent to the Philippines to a coven because she got pregnant. So anyway, Manny tries to deal with motherhood, tries to deal with telling Craig the story about it. Craig is happy about it with Manny. Unfortunately, Ashley ruins it by blurting out to the whole school. Ashley, I feel, was warranted. I mean, yeah, how she did it was bad, but Ashley had a right to be spurned because Craig cheated on her with Manny and got Manny pregnant. But, that's the way it goes. So, yeah, so Manny has the conflict with Emma, who says there's a lot of adoption agencies. And since Manny and Craig couldn't take care of baby Jack, they just couldn't have the baby. Manny's mom approves of the abortion, and Craig is understandably upset over the abortion thing. But what Craig doesn't do is tip his hand and say that he wants this baby because maybe it's his family. I mean, his mom died of a disease, his dad died in a car accident, and of course, his dad was abusive towards Craig in season 2, especially. And then all of a sudden, well, him and Joey, it's not much of a relationship, unfortunately. But Emma steps in and says that it's Manny's body and her right to choose, even though I'm anti abortion. I got to support my best friend. And Manny's shocked that Emma actually came to her aid because you know how panicky Emma is about abortion. But the fact of the matter is that to me, it feels like Emma was only doing it trying to protect Manny, only because she may have wanted Manny back as a best friend. Because remember, they had that blow off in season 3, but people told me that they had interacted. But still, it was great that Emma could actually still be anti-abortion but support her best friend. There's always that motion. So that's all from 11 to 14. Now the poll from 7 to 10. It got 117 votes. One actually did not do so well, but because it was, either a top 2 in the 3 polls or got double digits in those polls, I had to put it in the top 10. So if it were up to me, I would probably have put Accidents Will Happen at number 9 and Pride at number 10. But doing the one episode per year thing. So anyway, the real number 10 on the list was finally season 14. That's when Claire's class graduates. I couldn't find a good season 14 episode. Firestarter could have also been a good episode. But anyway, this was the finale of season 14. At the time, everyone thought this was it for Degrassi. 14 seasons, great job. So anyway, Claire doesn't know what to do after graduation because she's had all the issues with her child losing her child and all that, and her feelings for Eli and Drew. So Claire decides to take a gap year. In the meantime, there's promposals, as in trying to get someone to the prom. Connor gets Jenna to do it in an astronaut suit, which was nice, and then Drew tries to go after not Katie, Becky. He gets turned down. Worse still, Pill is too upset, and Pill decides that that's a moment of affection. Yeah, you can't do displays of affection. So you're not going to prom. Drew decides, fine, I won't go to prom. So he obeys Pill, but then when Dallas misbooks the prom boat, there's no prom. Audra gets Drew to fix something. So Drew goes into the school using the key codes, gets stuff, and throws it at the dot. Great job. Unfortunately, Pill is upset because only she and Drew knew those codes and wanted Drew to out people for helping him. Drew doesn't. And Pill says, well, that's fine, but now you will not walk the stage. I'll make sure you get your diploma, but you will not cross the stage. And I have to use this as a sign for the new students to take me seriously. So basically, she's just trying to scare people. Simpson actually does come back for the graduation class. He has to sit in the stands and all that. But he talks to Claire saying, Simpson's going over to Haiti to help build homes and all that, and says that Claire can take a gap year. And that's what Claire does. We find out that Dallas has been accepted to play hockey in Japan. Allie's going to MIT. Jenna, I can't remember where she's going, but Connor's going for a big prize and all that. But then the seniors decide to do the We Love Drew thing on their caps. And Pill tells everyone, well, remember, Drew's upset, but Audra says, you did the right thing. And then Pill says, one thing I know about the school is they show solidarity and allows Drew to cross the stage. And of course, this was, supposed to be the last episode in season 14. And then all of a sudden we have a summer special. And then Tristan says that there'll be a new class. Things are going to get bad. And I'm like, oh boy. So anyway, yeah. So that's number 5. Number 9 on the list with 19 votes was Mother and Child Reunion, the first ever episode. So Degrassi went for 5 seasons with junior high and high, and then they did the Schools Out movie, and then there was no Degrassi specials or anything for years. And then John Vision in 1999 decided to do an episode based on Degrassi characters, and some Degrassi faces came back. Even Raditch came back, and he looked hot. But anyway, yeah, so they were talking about a reboot and all that. And probably the thought of a new Degrassi show would be huge. But the worst part was CBC did not get the rights. It was CTV who swiped in for the Degrassi stuff. Yuck. So anyway, so the first ever episode was Mother and Child Reunion, in which Emma is talking to a boy online named Jordan and can't wait to meet him because they both left the environment. Manny shows her colors as Emma's friend and tries to help her out. And then we're introduced to JT and Toby, similarly aged kids. And, Toby does have his misgivings, but Emma says, I've known Jordan longer than I've known you. Anyway, Snake is the media immersion principal. Student teacher. Raditch is the principal at Degrassi Community School, I guess built on the old Degrassi reunions, if you will, with the Hive. And, even Degrassi High alumni are meeting up and they're talking to each other and all that. That was kind of cool. Caitlin and Joey were around and that was big. But of course, Emma's catfishing was huge. Emma meets Jordan, but he's a middle-aged man and all that. Manny, thankfully, with the help of JT, Toby, Spike, and Snake, get Emma out of the situation, and Emma feels bad. Her computer got taken away for evidence, and the officer said, keep it downstairs so that the predators don't get near it. Emma admits her mistake and all that. Spike says, you can talk to me about things about issues and all that. And, Emma feels bad for herself. So, yeah, that was great. And you brought back the Degrassi High people. And you Americans, you actually missed a key scene at first when Wheels comes back and talks to Lucy about ruining Lucy's life because, Wheels had that car crash in Schools Out that blinded Lucy for a little bit and sentenced Wheels to prison because he killed a kid in another car. But Wheels says, I've been dealing with this problem and I feel like I have to apologize. And fortunately, Lucy accepts his apology. So yeah, that was big. Number 8 on the list with 36 votes in the mini poll was season 10's My Body is a Cage. So what happens in this episode in season 10 is that we are introduced to Adam, a decent character and all that. But Adam's hiding something. We see Adam using bandages to wrap himself up and it's like, what? Is he hurt? Is he a victim? Burn victim? No. Adam was actually born Gracie, a female, and wanted to be a boy, making Adam one of the first transgender characters on Canadian TV, a female to male transgender. I'm surprised Degrassi never did a male to female. That was kind of weird. But anyway, FTM. But Audra is shown as being very upset with Adam trying to be a boy, wants Gracie. Basically trying to beg Gracie to stay Gracie and not be Adam for her parents' sake. Of course, the Catholic religion doesn't really do well. They frown upon people in the LGBTQ plus community. But regardless of that, Audra was under peer pressure. And she tried to pressure Adam to stay that. So Adam decides that she has to be Gracie. He's upset by having to be Gracie. But Audra then sees the pain in Adam's thing and says, fine, you can be Gracie one more time and that's it. You can be Adam. We'll burn your girl clothes. And I'll treat you as my son. So, yeah, it was huge and all that. And number 7, who won the mini poll, was Tears Are Not Enough Season 2 finale. So, Craig in Season 2 was introduced in the season premiere. He was the main focus of the premiere, in which we find out that his mom's dead, but his dad actually beats him almost for no reason whatsoever. And it seemed like, Craig was just a punching bag for Albert. Well, we soon learn through the season premiere that Julia Craig's mom actually left Albert to marry Joey. So Craig being with Angie, they're step siblings in a sense. And it's possible that Albert uses Craig as an outlet of his anger that Julia left him. But regardless of that, Craig stays with Joey for a while after Albert can't control his temper. Albert comes back in his life and says he's a changed man. But unfortunately, he gets pissed off for some dumb reason and yells at Craig. And Craig basically wants to disown him. Soon the police come to Joey's house and then they tell Joey the news. And then Joey realizes to Craig that Craig's dad got in a car accident and died. He probably got so angry that he lost control of his car accidentally. Or maybe it was a suicide, I don't know. But anyway, Craig still comes to Degrassi even though that Raj tells him that there's no pressure coming back, you can't fail, that would be the worst thing I could do. Anyway, so Craig can't process his dad's death. On the one hand, he doesn't have a dad anymore. On the other hand, his dad was an abuser and deserved his just desserts. So Craig's trying to process it. Craig and Ashley win Luau King and Queen, I guess because of sympathy. And it was funny seeing Jimmy Hazel. Oh, Jimmy. Who was Jimmy's girlfriend? Jimmy and Ashley, I guess? I don't know. But Paige and Spinner, those couples actually turn out terrible in a tanning bed thing. But regardless, Craig hallucinates seeing his dad and wants to go towards his dad. He rips down some decorations and all that. Everyone wants to stop him. Raj, one of only a handful of good things he did at Next Gen, said no, he's got to get it out of his system because he understands. Raj was there when Wheels lost his adoptive parents in a car crash and was there at the funeral and all that. He was there for Craig's dad's funeral. Terry then tells Craig that she lost her mother while she was at a birthday party. And it was hard for her. And basically, Craig finally comes to acceptance. So that's great. All that. All right, so here we go from 1 to 6. So 160 people voted. Number 1 almost got more than 50%. It missed out by how many votes? Oh no, wait. No, it did beat that. Time stands still. Or yeah. Yeah. So first place had 81 votes. The rest had 79. So yeah, it did sneak ahead of 50%, just narrowly. All right, so here we go. Number 6. With 3 votes is Believe Season 13. Yeah, I know it doesn't look good. But remember, I had to give top 2 to each of the polls from seasons 1 to 6, 7 to 12, 13 to 18. And it made it. Anyway, so Believe was... Zoe went through a lot. Not the least cyberbullying Maya, but Zoe was at a party at the Hollingsworth, and then 2 boys, one revealed to be Luke Baker, Becky's brother, and another boy named Neil, raped her without her consent. The videos are on the cell phone and all that, and Becky investigates and finds out that Luke did this. Becky can't believe it. So Zoe wants to get her rape trial working well, and, people do believe Zoe. And she feels vulnerable and all that. And, of course, Becky has the problem because her parents want Becky to lie and say that Luke didn't do anything wrong and all that. Becky is unsure what to do. She knows the evidence. She knows everything for what it is, and yet she's being forced to lie. Luke basically tells Becky that I protected you from a tongue lashing after you lost our grandmother's ring down the sink. But Becky does tell Luke that she couldn't bear the guilt and basically decided to tell the truth herself. Anyway, Luke does confirm Becky's worst fears, and Becky decides to testify on Zoe's behalf, and she does a good job. The Bakers are upset by Luke and Neil are sentenced to a couple years of juvie because obviously they're not adults by age. So he gets her vindication. It's happy. So he feels happy. Becky then tells her family, we can move on from this. No, we can't. And it was sickening. Like, Becky still lived with her family in season 14. They were still upset that she wouldn't protect Luke. Now, a couple of theories have been floated around. Number 1 is the favorite child thing. Like, Luke was, like, the Bakers lived in Florida, and then Luke got promoted to play hockey for the Toronto Ice Hounds, kind of like an OHL team. to maybe be drafted into the NHL and all that. And basically, I feel that, Luke was the can't miss prospect, and now his career might be done for because of Becky's telling the truth. And also, yeah, the favoritism over Luke. And also, of course, the Dark Fury is, the religious aspect because Becky's dad was a minister and, they were supposed to be Christians. And Becky had it in her mind that everyone were sinners and all that. She tried to go to conversion therapy because of her love for Adam, but Jenna calmed her down. Yeah, it was hard. The religious battle is huge. I mean, it's just as bad as being the favorite child. And would Becky, if she had the issues that Luke had, would Luke cover for her? Probably. But yeah, the whole religious thing was huge and all that, calling them hypocritical Christians. And I wouldn't put it past Becky's dad to have lost his job as minister because of this whole thing. But yeah, Becky lived with her family. I think her family couldn't kick Becky out because Becky could probably talk to people about how she was pressured by her family and, all that. But Becky feels trapped. Anyway, number 5 on the list with 10 votes was I'm Sleep, hashtag I'm Sleep from season 17 / Next Class season 3. This was the one when Maya tries to off herself. In the events of the bus crash at the end of season 2, Maya feels like death is around her. She gets into death stuff with Syed and all that, and she doesn't feel great. Tristan's in the hospital in a coma. She feels bad for Tristan. I would never feel bad. Tristan was a piece of shit for, being mad at her for the fact that Tristan was with Yates and Maya thought it was an inappropriate relationship and got Yates in trouble. And Tristan basically thought that, Maya was just jealous. And then forced Maya to grovel to him. Are you crazy? But anyway, yeah, Tristan in the coma aside, Maya just couldn't shake the feeling. And silently, I think she was just, the feelings about Cam were coming back to her. The death thing, because, she felt responsible for Cam's death and all that. And yes, that part will be, and that episode is in the top 6 to be shown later. But anyhow, Maya decides to overdose on pills and put on headphones on a bus, on an abandoned bus. And then she wakes up 30 minutes later saying, I'm doing something wrong. And then decides to jump off the school's roof. Fortunately, though, Sig and Esme actually were having coitus on the roof. And they found out that Maya was on the roof. But Maya didn't give the pills enough time to kick in. And they kick in, and Maya's about to choke to death. Sig wants to know what to do. Esme says, don't make her vomit. She could choke on her own vomit. My mom died in front of me, committed suicide. I know what to do. Fortunately, though, Esme saves Maya from dying, and, it was great. Maya was safe and all that. Of course, the end of the episode, I'm Sleep, was terrible. When Tristan, using his voice thing, he says, who's up for pizza? And everyone leaves Maya's hospital bed to deal with pizza. And it's like, what the fuck? Was Tristan doing that on purpose to get at Maya because, Maya was mad at Tristan? I don't know. But no, I think it was just coma brain. He just wasn't thinking straight. Comas can hurt people and all that. So yeah, poor Maya and all that. Maya did come back to being better in Next Class season 4. But Esme, of course, was pissed off because everyone was gravitating towards Maya, including Sig. So Esme tried to destroy Maya's credibility, which kind of failed in the end. Okay, number 4 on the list with 15 votes was We Built This City season 7. It was season 7's best pick. It was the episode that Emma's class graduated. Well, Emma's class left Spinner. Spinner got to graduate, and I think Jimmy got something, some GED. But anyway, this was when Degrassi was going to get its own prom, its own graduation. We were going to miss Emma's class and all that. You knew the Lakers students were going to take over the show. Well, there were rumors that Degrassi was done after season 7. Said CTV didn't want to take part in it, but CTV held it for a few more years before Much Music took it over. Well, of course, being from Canada, that's how I'm saying it. But the fact of the matter is that we built this city was pretty impressive. Unfortunately, there was a dark tone. Damien, despite the fact he was supposed to be with Emma, had eyes for Liberty and all that. Damien and Liberty were both Class A people who were valedictorians of their classes. Damien was the valedictorian of the Lakehurst class that would have a separate graduation ceremony than Degrassi, and Liberty was number one for Degrassi. And they got together, and then Toby was upset at that backstabbing thing. And Toby was also upset that they didn't want to talk, that Liberty didn't want to talk about doing a memorial for JT. So that was just terrible and all that. They do the prom. Jimmy and his date were there. Spinner was there. Hijinks include. And yes, it was the real Natasha Bedingfield singing Unwritten and Pocketful of Sunshine on the show. It was the real singer, which was nice. And of course, every time I hear a Natasha Bedingfield song at work, that's what brings me to Degrassi. Anyway, we built this city, was impressive. And of course, Toby spills the beans on Damien being with Liberty. Liberty can't bring herself to finishing her valedictorian speech and runs off. However, Emma, Manny, and Toby calm her down, and Emma says, "I'm mad at Damien, not you. Besides, I don't want to ruin a 6-year friendship." Of course, that's a mistake because Emma and Liberty were not really close as friends. Maybe they were frenemies, if you will. But yeah, Manny says everyone deserves a second chance. I mean, Manny talks about her mistakes and how people gave her a second chance, and says that Liberty deserves it. Liberty does a slideshow about JT, and then it's announced that there was a headstone for JT's thing, like a memorial thing. And the last poignant scene of that episode. Oh, sorry. We Built a City was also when Peter finds out that Hatzalakos is going to go to Regina to deal with her ailing mother. And Peter doesn't want to go to Regina. He wants to finish up in Toronto. And his dad does not want to house him and all that, even though Peter says, "I won't take much room." Peter says he decides to be emancipated and even talks about the episode in which Bart briefly emancipates himself from Homer because Homer spent his money on, Bart made a commercial and Homer spent all that money on stuff, including buying back photos that would have incriminated Homer as a bad father. But regardless of that, yeah, so the final scene was when they place a cap on JT's memorial and then turn the tassel. It was poignant because, JT didn't graduate with them, but it said JT kind of graduated, quote unquote, with them. And then, of course, the JT York Memorial Garden happens, and that's a poignant scene for another one. Speaking of JT, the episode in which she got offed was number 3, Rock This Town, with 18 votes. So Rock This Town happened. And basically, it was a Degrassi Lakehurst feud because JT was dating Mia, who was the ex-girlfriend of the head of Lakehurst Troublemakers, Nick, the guy before Lucas, who impregnated Mia. Of course, JT was fawning over Isabella, Mia's daughter. Liberty felt a little jealous. I mean, how could she not be jealous? I mean, Liberty did chase JT away. It was her fault. But the fact of the matter is that Liberty wasn't sure about things. Liberty leaves leaves her own birthday party early. Manny and Emma, Manny was still living with Emma at the time. Manny and Emma threw the party for Liberty's birthday. Manny was throwing it to get over Craig. And the simple fact is that Lakehurst students came in, tried to cause trouble. Emma was trying to lose her virginity to Sean, but she ended up drunk and passing out. And the simple fact is that, JT decides to go after Liberty, calling her oatmeal and calling Mia a meatball sub. Ugh, racist much. So anyway, JT, with Toby's blessing, decides to go after Liberty. And then all of a sudden, Drake Lampley, a redhead, and Johnny DeMarco decide to go after him. And Drake pulls out a knife and stabs JT in the aorta. Johnny is shocked because I think they were going to cause trouble, but not kill the fucking guy. So anyway, Liberty comes back, does her primal scream, "Somebody help," and JT bleeds out and dies at the end of the episode. Of course, the downfall was huge. Liberty felt terrible about JT. Toby was close to Liberty, but I think it was survivor's guilt. And of course, Emma, with her coming through a few episodes later and just basically saying that she was upset with Lakers and trying to start another Lakers Degrassi war as a front for her upset that Manny was leaving Emma and moving back home with her parents. Her parents thought it was the best idea for Manny to move home, and Emma felt terrible about this. And I guess Emma was trying to control Manny in a sense. But I mean, the biggest thing, and yes, of course, we all know about Emma, the anti-Lakers rhetoric, was not about JT. I mean, how often did they interact? Not so much. The simple fact is that, to me, the biggest puzzle is Nick's downfall. Was Nick also in trouble for the whole thing? Drake Lampley was sentenced to prison time for stabbing and killing JT, obviously. But was Nick possibly involved too? But yeah, that was just sad. It's weird how sadness always ends up taking things. Anyway, number 2 with 33 votes was Bittersweet Sympathy Season 12, in which Cam commits suicide. So Cam came in season 12 and was a hockey player too. He was up from Casing, which is in Northern Ontario and 10 hours from Toronto. He was having troubles. He was homesick. People do that all the time, man. And, he wanted to be with Maya, but Maya was with Miles. It was a crazy love triangle. Cam did not want to play hockey because of the stresses that the team put on him. So Cam tries to get out of playing hockey by jumping from the balcony in Degrassi and actually slashing himself with his skates. I think he was partially successful. Anyway, in a floor hockey thing, Sig gets under Cam's skin. Cam beats up on Sig. Maya refuses to defend Cam by saying that Sig started it. Cam gets suspended for a week. Cam tries to apologize to Maya and all that. And even takes Maya's stuffed owl Hoot with him and will give it back to her in front of the school. Unfortunately, at the same time, Sig basically tells Cam that if you want to help Maya, get out of her life forever. Not realizing that that was the last straw for Cam to kill himself. Like, I don't blame Sig completely because I know Sig was a jilted lover, but the fact is, he didn't know Cam's problems. Anyway, so as Eli wants to set up a picnic for Claire by the JT York greenhouse or Memorial Garden, he then goes into the greenhouse and finds Cam's horrified body. Obviously, there's no signs of how Cam died, and Eli has a PTSD episode. Thankfully, his family helps him out. But of course, the school is upset with the story. Simpson tells Maya everything, and Maya says, "Can I just have time to practice my cello and all that?" She just seemed emotionless. Everyone wanted Maya to spew some emotion. It was her boyfriend, after all. But Maya just says that, he was selfish for taking his own life. I would have helped him. And that's normal. Sig even came up to Maya and confessed he may have caused Cam's death. And she brushed him off. Of course, we would soon learn that the death did haunt Maya for a while. And she made a monologue, basically, that, Cam killed himself. He broke up with me by killing himself. I would have helped him. He's selfish. I hate him. I hate him. But she did get some closure in season 14 with the whole Miles thing. I think that definitely was a way to get back her style because she felt bad that she let Cam down by not helping him. And then with Miles with his problems, she needed to do something to alleviate her guilt over Cam, and she did it. But then, of course, that bus crash ruined her. And another thing, of course, about Bittersweet Symphony that, well, other than Dallas's meltdown and admitting he should have helped Cam, and Dallas knew he was away from home. He was from Guelph, close by my neck of the woods, but anyway, he should have been more helpful to Cam. But yeah, Bittersweet Sympathy. One of the biggest things I always say in many videos is, well, how did Cam die? Did he slash himself? Did he hang himself? Or theory number 3 is, did he drink garden chemicals? Because you know how toxic they are. And a lot of people in the Degrassi Reddit community probably don't do this. They probably don't have the experience with garden chemicals like I do. Yes, for all my stuff, and all that, and making videos and all that, I've worked with garden chemicals on multiple occasions. In 2019, I worked a summer at a greenhouse, at a nursery near my house. And I had to take tests on toxicity of chemicals, garden chemicals, and like liquids and all that. And also for a few years now, I've been dealing with soils at our summer soil compound at Canadian Tire in Waterloo. So I know this firsthand. And that makes a whole lot of sense. But number one, to end this video, and you knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to be number one. I voted for it with 81 out of 160 votes, just over the 50% mark, is Time Stand Still. Now, of course, I want to talk about the episode, and I know I've taken up a lot of your time, but yeah, number one. So I got to think about the episode. Okay, so the lead up to the episode is that Rick comes back to Degrassi. Everyone's upset by it, wants to get rid of him, thinks that the school's not doing anything to help. Raj is not helpful at all. Emma tries to make an orange ribbon campaign about domestic violence, and there's a lot of causes to why Emma did that. But then Emma protects Rick from a savage beating, and Paige's group basically leaves Emma high and dry, and all Emma is hanging out with is the quiz team of Heather, Rick, and Toby. Of course, Heather gets mono, and then it was suggested that Craig may have had mono too, because Craig was sick in the subplot of Time Stands Still and all that. So of course, Time Stands Still starts when Rick comes to school, and then Jimmy and Spinner put him in a dumpster. Next day, because of the change of clothes, he decides to circle and X everyone's cars that betrayed him in a sense. Doing so makes him late. He bumps into Jimmy, and then Snake bumps into them and asks Jimmy about the 3 longest rivers and the team that's won the most NBA titles. The rivers are the Amazon, the Nile, and the Yangtze, and the NBA team is the Boston Celtics, who at that time had 16 titles when this was made in 2004. They added a 17th title in 2008, and then the Lakers now have tied them at 17 with their 2020 win. But anyway, so Jimmy's put in the quiz team because of Heather's illness. Jimmy's not too pleased, but anyway, he's there. Rick is upset that Jimmy's on the team, wants to get Raj to boot Jimmy off the team, but Rick is not straightforward when he talks about Jimmy, and Raj blows him off. Alex, Spinner, and Jay, who are really the big bullies that still left, decide to get revenge on Rick because they knew that Rick spray painted their cars. Of course, Sean tells them that they can't go to Raj because Raj would have asked them what led to this. So Jay, knowing damn well he can't incriminate himself, decides to get Rick back. And Rick then, after Toby gets hurt by Spinner and Jay, Rick tells Jimmy that, Toby is going to suffer now. I've been suffering, now Toby is. So Jimmy turns sides, turns face, if you will, if you're a wrestling fan like myself, and Rick does the sign. Smooth move, boy. Anywho, so Rick's mom talks about how Rick will rule the school when they win the trivia competition to Toby, and Toby's like, yeah, okay. And how everyone's fast friends. Sure. And to think I wanted you to do the transfer to another school. You worry too much, mother. And it's like Rick's mom even wanted him to go to a new school, but in the end, she supported her son. Motherly love, am I right? So anyway, because of Emma's advice, Rick and Jimmy are talking to each other. Rick thanks Emma, and basically they do the trivia competition and all that. It's a tie, thanks to Rick saving the team's butt by saying about remembering Bobby Jones was the first golfer to win the Grand Slam, career Grand Slam. But anyway, in golf. And then, during the tiebreaker, Jimmy and Rick talk. Rick tells him that he has time to read because, his family, all that. Spinner and Jay talk to Rick and says, you should do the tiebreaker. Unbeknownst to Rick, they're tricking him into being there while they do paint and feathers on him. So Rick saves the school, wins the competition, the paint and feathers fly. Everyone laughs at Rick. Emma tries to calm Rick down, despite the fact that Rick was holding her hand during the thing and whispering, "This is for you." I have to do it kind of loudly because you probably don't hear me when I whisper, "This is for you." I guess you can kind of hear that. But regardless of that, Emma doesn't see that, and then Emma tries to calm Rick down. Rick kisses her. Rick, what are you doing? I thought you loved me. I pitied you. Get a clue. And then Rick decides to walk home. His parents aren't home, so he finds his dad's gun in a bag. It's like that gun was easily accessible to Rick. Why? So Rick decides to go to the school with his paint and feathers outfit on. No, it doesn't change, doesn't do anything. And brings the gun in his backpack. Toby tries to head him off at the pass, but Rick says no. Raj wants answers and all that. Of course, Spinner decides to brag to Jimmy about the whole thing, and they have a fight. And in the deleted scene in that episode, you don't see them go to the principal's office like they should have. Like Armstrong should have sent them to the principal's office. Jimmy and Spinner are talking to each other, and so is Craig. And then Spinner sees Rick's outfit. Brock, 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 brock. Raj wants Spinner to meet him at 3:30 for a talk. Unfortunately, though, Snake gets upset with Raj's tactics, and Raj says this is not daycare, and making friends is not part of the curriculum. I don't know if you really have a curriculum in daycare. I would say preschool, for that matter. But regardless, Raj may have missed the point again. Of course, I know the subplot about Craig being sick, and then wants Sydney, Joey's ex, to help sell Joey's house because it's up for auction and all that. And Joey's not too happy with the help. But thankfully, though, he comes to his senses and thinks Craig's right about everything. Despite the fact that Craig went to school sick, saying that I'd rather be sick at school than deal with you at home. But with Caitlin's help, Joey's house is saved. And of course, Rick decides to clean himself up after raising the gun at Paige, but no one sees the gun. But Paige apologizes for everything, and Rick says, I can't do this, and apologizes for what he did to Terry, seemingly for the first time. Like, fuck, you should have done that beforehand. But anyhow, Rick cleans himself up, but the evidence of his paint and feathers is enough for Jay to convince Spinner that we should tell Rick that Jimmy did everything. So Rick goes back to his locker with a gun, shoots Jimmy in the spine. It could have been worse if Rick really wanted to shoot Jimmy, but he had a change of heart. And remember, when Rick did this. Rick turned his head while shooting Jimmy and shot him in the spine. And who was the first student to see that? Craig. And Craig is upset. Everyone flees in the direction of Emma, Toby, and Sean, but then Rick stops him and wants to shoot Emma for spreading his advances. Sean tries to calm Rick down like a police officer should, but Rick says it's too late. I already shot somebody. Is ready to shoot Emma, but Sean wrestles the gun. The gun goes off, and we don't know who dies or who got shot. We see Sean with a bandage on his shoulder. It's like, okay, maybe he got shot in the shoulder. Where's Rick? So anyway, the school's in a panic, and a lot of things happen and all that. Kate Kerwin, as in Toby's stepmom, comes to the school because she was told to talk to Toby, and then sees Jimmy on a gurney. It's like, oh my god. So basically, there's a lot of poignant scenes. Paige and Hazel talking about the shooting. Well, Hazel's told by Sobe about Jimmy's condition. Toby's interviewed by a police detective. Emma is comforted by Spike and Snake, but then Raj bursts in the meeting room, wants signs from Snake. Snake gets upset. He and Raj have a shouting match and all that. Spinner feels instant regret when he learns that Jimmy was shot, and then learns that, oh my god, we told Rick everything about Jimmy. He had a gun. I have to tell someone. It's going to get out. And Jay tells him not to worry because, Jimmy won't be his friend either he's alive or dead, no matter what the outcome comes. People blame each other. Snake takes accountability and all that. But yeah, it was just heartbreaking and all that, especially for Spinner. Because, the aftermath was huge. I mean, Jimmy was still on the show. Like, he was just in a wheelchair because his spine got hurt. It could have been way worse. Rick is found dead. So Rick somehow got the gun pointed at him and shot. Sean, shot Rick accidentally, of course. But the fact of the matter is that Sean feels regret for what he did and thinks he's going to get in trouble for the cops, which I doubt it because Rick was the instigator. And, Emma had a lot of problems. She internalized everything like she usually does and tried to be the old Emma, but she just couldn't. It just shook her up. Raj was eliminated from his position mostly because of the aftermath and, leaving Rick high and dry. And, Rick was not straightforward. Did they make Raj a scapegoat? No, because Raj didn't help the school out in the first place, so he deserved to get canned. There were a lot of things. Toby was shunned for a while by the writers, even though JT came back to Toby as being friends. Yeah, it just messed everyone up. And that's the way it goes. And that was definitely number one, Time Stand Still. The episode that went there. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jeff Diamond.